Welcome to self-discoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Your Health is Your Choice, right here at self-discoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Sid Garza-Hillman, and we're going to be talking about your health today. He says it's all done in small steps. He's a step advocator, small step advocator. We don't have to take leaps and bounds when we want change. Sometimes just the toe in front of the toe can get us where we need to go. He also has this wonderful 6 truths to be happy. He's a health manifesto. He's raising healthy parents. The small steps helps you with less stress and a thriving family. His approach is to exact the opposite of quick fixes and diets and exercise. DVDs focusing rather on long-term and sustainable change and increased self-esteem and confidence in the process. It's actually very apropos that at the present moment, we are in the year of the ox, and the ox is very loyal, very true, very sturdy, very just plodding away, plowing that field. No big bells and whistles, but solid you can count on. And this is the kind of coach that he is. You can count on him. He's not going to push you beyond what you need to do. And you'll get there. You will get there with those small steps. He has a podcast, What Sid Thinks podcast. And we'll be talking about that as well. He is also an author, approaching the natural a healthy manifesto and raising healthy parents, which I love the idea of that. We look at our parents. Mine are gone now, but I live with an 87-year-old who is healthier than me, although she is a sugar addict, salt addict, vinegar addict, and orange pico tea. And I think there's something in the orange pico tea that kind of preserves them. But, I look at her and I think and she just eats so much of all of that stuff, and yet she still keeps on ticking. And it's like, how? Because we know that if we do, we're going to pay the price. We're going to have heart problems. We're going to have diabetes. We're going to have everything else. And a lot of that comes into the foods we eat and the mindset and the stress that we live under. So welcome to the show, Sid. We need you right now.
Oh, good. Well, I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to talk about it. Yeah, the raising healthy parents is actually about raising yourself as a parent. So that's the message there. Not necessarily your parents, but as a parent, taking care of yourself first. So that's just the message on that.
I will actually think that my 30-year-old's kids would actually think that's titled for them in raising me.
Yeah, no, it's much about living the example as a parent. I'm a parent of 3, so that was the idea of that book. But anyways,
yeah. And that's a very good point, because this is something we're always saying to everybody: you need to oxygenate yourself before you do anyone else. And it is so easy, and I succumb to this in raising my children, running around for them and doing everything, that my health kind of became on the back burner. Didn't have time for it.
That's right. Right. I've used those exact words. As parents can't afford to put their own happiness and health on the back burner. It's not even good for the kids.
No. And I can attest to that. No, it doesn't work.
That's right. Exactly.
You end up really sick.
Yeah.
And now you feel even more guilty because now you feel a burden on your kids.
Yeah, they have to take care of you. That's exactly right. Yeah,
exactly.
That's exactly
right. Prevention is better than cure.
That's right.
The positive attitude.
That's right.
Which is so hard to do.
Well, and in the book, first it's split in 2 halves. The first half is philosophy. The second half is reality, which is how do you get this done as a busy parent? And that's where my small steps approach comes in, because, oftentimes the idea of any kind of change is overwhelming and we don't want to even take it on. Oh my gosh, too much. And, but when you can change even your mindset around that, you can make leaps and bounds in very subtle ways. And it's a very cool thing as I'm coaching people. So it's all about that whole picture of mindset before anything else.
I think we're in a world where everything must be instant. Just download an app and it will all happen.
Yeah.
Just manifest it and Amazon will deliver it.
That's right.
And, it doesn't work like that, folks. You
No,
know,
not happiness does. I mean,
no,
look at our levels of, if we have the slightest bit of discomfort, headache, we take Tylenol, it goes away. We've, in the West especially, we've been led to an expectation of immediate alleviation of discomfort.
yes,
The problem with that is a Pepto Bismol will cure stomach ache, but the change in diet is what actually gets you to the point of
right.
health, and that's a long-term endeavor. Every time, you cannot hack that, and so we can fake it with medications and we can fake it with junk food and sort of make ourselves feel happy in moments. But if we really want a long life, that my whole new book is Six Truths, is simply about, it's a more of a happiness manifesto, if you, based on my health manifesto in the first. But yeah, it's a mindset. It's like it takes hard work to live a good life, and you can't get around that. That's just what it is. And so you can make it easier on yourself about that, or you can make it harder on yourself about that. But it is about the hard work of living a good life.
It doesn't matter how rich you are,
No,
how
no.
many people following you on social media.
Sometimes it's the
Uh,
opposite of that.
yeah, I
You,
mean,
you know.
because the stress of trying to maintain that popularity
Hmm.
or maintain the riches. I've interviewed many a person that was at the top of their game,
Yeah.
and they say, I was a slave to maintaining that position,
Yeah.
and I lost my family and I lost my
Oh yeah.
health,
Oh no. They were
right?
happier when it was a struggle.
And
And
so they gave up everything and
yeah.
redirected themselves into something that was more meaningful
Yeah.
and more purposeful. And they are now more enriched
That's right.
and living
Enrich
more
instead of
of an
rich.
abundant life. Yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but sometimes it needs the cosmic two by four to come along. It can hit with the heart attack, it can hit with the diabetes, it can hit
Yeah.
with something else, and right now with the global pandemic, it's a kind of a reset for humanity
That's right.
altogether, isn't it?
That's yeah, and I think you and I are in the same boat, where I'm just trying to get people to clue in to how great this can be, so that they don't ever get to the heart attack. And
Yes,
if that's what it takes for somebody, that's fine. But the fact of the matter is, it's a better option to not let it get that far. And my training is not to teach people how to be robots and never have an off day. It's how do you
right,
respond? How do you respond from the off day?
right.
How much do you let yourself go? Do you notice, okay, I'm starting to fall off a little bit. Let me get back on track before it gets too much. And
Yes,
that's an awareness question. I mean, that's a can you be engaged in your life day to day to not let that go too far? Most of my clients are a history of yo-yo dieting. They lost the weight, they
mm,
gained it back. Or the DVD plan, they did this and then they stopped doing it for all or nothing. And I go, okay, enough all or nothing, because people who
yeah,
are all or nothing end up doing nothing. So
yeah.
if you
Or
can just
getting
be,
nowhere.
yeah, because you go all
Mm,
in, you burn out, and you quit, and then you
yeah,
feel like a failure. But the
yes,
model is flawed. The
yeah,
fundamental model is flawed. If you change the game entirely and say, well, I'm not going to go all in, I'm going to manage my stress along the way so that I can create lasting habits, then you build the good life you want. But that, again, that takes work and attention.
you just said the magic word, manage.
Hmm.
Everything in life that we need to do is management,
That's right.
right? No company is going to succeed without the right kind of management.
That's right.
A family household, running a family, we are managing it.
That's correct.
And sometimes we're managing it at the end of the skin of our teeth, but if we have a good management plan in there,
That's right.
we're not going to get overwhelmed. And when we do get overwhelmed, we actually have the skills and the tools to deal with that,
Yeah.
right? And very often it's just simply the deep breath,
Well,
resetting
exactly. Well,
yourself,
exactly. Right. Yeah,
right?
it's funny because I just became a certified oxygen advantage breathing coach. So I'm definitely bringing in the that whole training. But I've used the management analogy a
Mm,
lot in my work and podcast and everything, because what is an effective manager? Somebody
yeah,
who she or he is calm, cool, can make
yes,
decisions, can seek it, have perspective. Those are things that we need a manager who can sort of be okay, not be swayed emotionally, can sort of take control. That's what we need in terms of our own management, our own
yes,
stress management. Is we need to be more prefrontal cortex decision, less reactive and more active in our lives,
yeah.
decisions that we make instead of reactions. That goes for food too. I'm a nutritionist, so people
Mm,
come to me to talk about food, but I go, this isn't about food. This is
mhm,
about how you are when you get around food. If you can
yeah,
change how you are, you have a better chance of making good decisions most of the time that are in line with how you want to eat. And
yeah,
so nobody ever chooses to binge. They just do it because they've had a bad day at work and they feel bad overall, and they make that reactive choice. But if you can change that mindset, all of a sudden their choices fall in line. And
mm,
that's management. That is
yeah,
being a cool operator, in a way, a calm, cool
mm,
operator most of the time. Not perfect, but most
yeah.
of the time.
And I think that's kind of one of the first skills. I've coached myself, and one of the first things I would always tell people is learn to breathe. Just
Oh
learn
yeah.
to breathe.
Yeah.
Take the deep breaths. You
Yeah.
need at least three.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
want to
Oh, I
get
know.
that chakra, that spine, in alignment, and you have to exhale the stress and just
That's right.
inhale the possibilities. And, you can think so much clearer.
Hmm.
Now, I'm an asthmatic. And at the present moment, obviously with COVID, it's, oh,
Yeah, sure.
I've been suffering a cold for this last week.
Hmm.
And in the moment, your brain goes there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Is it? No,
Yeah.
it's a
Oh yeah.
cold,
Oh yeah. It's making us crazy. No, it's making us crazy. We have the
Yes,
littlest headache, and we're like, it's
yes.
happening. Yeah, no, it's made us all crazy. It's
Yeah,
hard, and rightfully so. But all the more reason to take steps, however minimal, to sort of
yeah,
keep your. I was an asthmatic for my first 24 years of my life. I changed my diet a little bit and haven't had asthma since. And but I know how that is, and I know how people living with it now. It makes you feel more sensitive, and it makes you feel like if you get the pandemic, you're going to be in worse shape. And it's fear. It's
yeah.
horrible. And it's horrible to live in fear for anybody. And there's enough fear already before the pandemic. You read the news and you
Yes.
can't help but be frightened. And so yeah, and so it's in the moments. I think that you know we all want to feel less stressed, but I think the mistake is made when we think, okay, I need to go on a 10-day retreat,
Mm,
that'll fix everything. And that's great, but it's not going to fix everything. So if
yeah.
we can manage how to do the little things in the context of our lives, we win most days. If we can figure out how to make moments in the lives that we live. We need breaks, vacations, those are great, but we
Yes.
got to figure out how to do better day to day, how to manage that fear and stress day to day, how to not let it rule us.
Right.
And that's the struggle.
I had a wonderful Michel Pascal, a monk, who would take people into Times Square when Times Square was Times Square,
Active.
and it was, you're going to learn to meditate here. You're
Oh, I
going to
love
be
it.
the mountain here.
I love it.
It's all very well meditating in silence, but what do you
Yeah,
do when you get around the noise?
that's right.
You need to meditate or learn to switch off the noise around you wherever you are.
I love
So
that so
if
much.
you're in a static situation, if you're in literally a noisy situation, is how do you get back into your core, into your
That's right.
center?
Yeah.
And we're always teaching people. I'm a huge advocate of silence,
Yeah.
because I think we hear so much messaging in our
Sure.
silence, but it isn't about the meditation in silence. And then noise comes along and you don't know what to do
You
with
can't do
it.
it. I know. I know. No, it's absolutely true. It's funny. I read a book, which I cite in my new book, the Six Truths book, but it's called Lead Yourself First. And it's a very, he talks about stories of leaders and how they've, found they use moments of solitude, but and that's fine. But I love the way that he defines solitude, the author, which is that it's free from inputs from other minds.
Mhm.
Right. So it doesn't mean silence. It
No.
means that you're not actively putting something into your head. It means you don't have headphones on. You're not reading the news. You're in the subway, but you're in solitude because you're creating that moment for yourself. Even in like you said, in Times Square craziness. Like you said, it's easy enough to meditate in a temple when somebody else is making you food and it's very quiet and it's very conducive. But you got to get back.
Yeah.
And that's great. But again, happiness is what you do most of the time. And unless you're living in that temple most of the time, you've got to come back to your life. That means you're raising a family. That means you have a job. That means you have a spouse. That means you have all these things that are pulling your mental energy. And they're many of them positive, but you've got to figure out how to maintain a core, a grounding in that context. And I love that she's brilliant, because that's exactly what is it. Can you meditate in the world? Let me see that.
Yes.
Let me see that happen. Because
Yeah.
then you've done something.
I go for walks in nature. The wind is my friend. I love
Mhm.
the way it just blows through my hair, clears all the cobwebs. I love water. It's my conduit. And I love trees. They're my friends. And
Sure.
when I can get around all three of them at the same time, and,
Bonus.
I don't want any voice chatter. I just want to hear
That's
the
right.
trees and the wind and the water, because
That's
they're
right.
going to tell me everything I need to know. And there is an equilibrium about it.
That's
And
right.
I think we have to look at, where is our peace,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Is nature is a wonder provider of that. And if we can't get out into nature as much as we'd like to, then where do we find our peace? And it's not a question of, again, you've got kids running around, and
Hmm.
my daughter's about to give birth to my first grandchild, and
Nice.
she's I always just say to mums that busy look at their mothers and go, oh, mother, and
Uh-huh.
then, wait till you become one.
Yeah, yeah, totally true.
Totally different scenario now.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I remember my niece say, yes, and the kid will live on this side of the compartment and it will do this and that. My sister and I looked at each
Good
other and
luck.
go,
Yeah,
yeah, right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Good luck, good luck,
Yeah.
good luck. We all have great plans.
Yes, yes. And kids are tornadoes. They are,
Yeah,
and again, that management skill comes in there, but the taking the time for your own solitude or your
that's
own
right.
peace of mind, whether it's
That's
in
right.
the chaos or out of the chaos, stress is a number one killer because it brings on all the other dis-ease.
That's right.
And we don't know how to handle stress in society, do. And
That's right.
this last 4 or 5 years, I'm in Canada, you're in the
Uh-huh.
States, you've
Yeah,
been really in the thick of it.
yeah.
Hysteria
Oh yeah.
tornado has
Oh yeah.
been so high
Yeah, yeah.
that people are being like this, and
Oh yeah.
they had it on the news the other day that so many people are clenching their
Oh, I'll be
jaws when
darned.
they're sleeping,
Sure.
right, that is
Yeah.
causing so many problems, and I realized I was,
Oh wow. Yeah, yeah.
and it's let's just de-stress, let's
Yeah.
just de-stress.
Yes. Yeah. And the important thing is to understand you don't have to go away to do that. You don't have to
No.
set aside an hour and a half. You can set aside literally 5 breaths and that'll
Hmm.
do it. And I actually go the step further to say, as a parent, if you can learn these kinds of tools, as small as you need. I don't have a fixed size in the world, but as small as doesn't overwhelm you, right?
Hmm.
But not only do you get the benefit of managing your own stress, but you set an example for your child to
Yeah.
see how that's done too. And so if parent, I'm a father of three, and my wife and I both work full time, and so we're busy, and so
Hmm.
it's like we have to maintain to be good parents. It's about maintaining our own peace, as you said, when we
Hmm.
can, but also showing our kids that even in chaos, we can maintain that control and that stress. And that's a really good message for kids as well, to see how do their parents handle stress? How do their
Yes.
parents handle fear? When I speak, when things were open, I speak around the country, and my kids have asked me, what is it? Do you get afraid when you go on stage? I go, yeah, every time. I
Hmm.
have a crowd of
Hmm.
people, and I'm nervous. I want them to know
Yes.
that I'm nervous. I want them to know that I'm afraid, and that they get to see what I do about that.
Right.
And so it's like, it's managing and guiding. So
Yeah.
it's mhm.
And I think it's also very, very important that kids know that mum or dad can have a meltdown, that
Sure.
we can have a period where we're feeling overwhelmed and we just don't know what to do.
Yeah,
And it's okay for them to come and help us.
that's right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
Right.
this
Yeah.
is, I think, again, a lot of the old parenting paradigm is don't let the kids see you like this,
Or
you know,
argue, even like,
or
don't
argue.
let them see the parents argue as if that's a reality, right?
Yeah,
But how do the parents argue, and how do they get past it?
right.
That's the lesson.
Yes.
You know.
And it's okay for the kids. The
Sure.
empowerment and permission for the kids to say, what
Sure.
can I do for you?
Yeah.
Or parents cut it out
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes you just need that external voice.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
And I
Yeah.
think I'm a huge advocate for children. On having a voice, on being able to speak out, and being able to address things that they don't like. And, we as parents like to take everything on, and
Yeah.
we forget we're in a family dynamic,
Yeah. That's right.
all right? And the kids have just as important input. And sometimes they're coming, you hear what they have to say and you realize, oh, I didn't realize that rubbed off on you that way,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, the
right?
things they notice, because I always say, like in my Raising Healthy Parents book, it really is more about what you do more than what you say.
Yes.
So you can say all the right things. So you can say go outside and exercise, but if you're sitting on your butt on the couch
Mm,
and you don't ever exercise, guess what they're going to notice?
yeah.
And over time, even on
And
a
they'll call you out on it.
you're darn right. Yeah. What about you? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Right. So living the example both serves you and it serves them in a very, very profound way. It's a tough pill to swallow.
Hmm.
We don't want to feel like we're not being a good example. It doesn't feel good. But that's the name of the game. When you start a family, that's the name of the game. I was just talking to a client today about, she says, I don't like hard work. And I said, well, I think you do. You got married and you had a
Mm,
child on purpose. Those are
yes.
those are hard work. She goes, I know. But we do that because the work of those kinds of things, if we were just about easy, we would never have a child because it's very difficult. But what we want is a deeper existence. We want a
Mm,
feeling. We want to feel things and be engaged in our lives. And that takes work. Why we think that shouldn't apply to changes in diet and changes in exercise, I have no idea. But as a coach, I'm here to say, like, that's struggle too. You got it. If you want the deeper existence, if you want that feeling of vibrance, this isn't about a scale weight, not even by a long shot. This isn't even about diabetes. This
mhm.
is about feeling good. This is about being engaged in your life, and to get people past those sort of six-pack abs kind of things
Yeah.
and saying, listen, what do you really want here?
Yeah.
Is it really a scale weight? Is it really a number on a scale? Or do you want to be around for your kids and be around to do cool things and have adventures and have a good relationship with your spouse or partner? Like that's really where it's at, And so it is, again, I always come back. It's like the hard work, it's the hard
Mm.
work of it, the
I
hard
think
and
what
great work of it.
and great work, but it doesn't become hard work the more you get into it. It just
Hmm.
becomes a routine.
That's right.
The other thing I think is very, very important is, the emotional and physical energy that we are looking for. Ultimately, um, again, I have a disease that zaps my energy,
Hmm.
and that is the one thing I wish I could get back. And
Sure.
that is something that, we take for granted. And we don't have full happiness if we, sorry, that's my daughter's, I can't get rid of it. It keeps coming out in every
That may be the
food.
best thing I've ever seen.
It was her
That literally was
online Zoom,
it,
baby
background.
shower.
So good. I mean, just because it happened right then, it was just like, yes,
There's the energy.
you manifested it literally in the moment.
There
And
we
there it
go.
goes.
There
And
it goes.
now I'm depressed again. How did that happen? My mood just changed just overnight. It was so weird.
But that's actually a point, isn't it? Is that if we're feeling low emotionally, physically on energy,
Uh-huh.
what is going to lift us up?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And sometimes just silly laughter.
Absolutely.
I used to put on Queen and We Are the Champions, and the
Yeah.
kids and I would sing and dance
Dance.
around
Yeah.
with it, and
Yeah.
it's be silly.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Lighten things up. You can
Yeah.
still maintain a routine, a
Yeah.
management,
Oh
but
yeah.
please allow time for silly play.
I agree. And look what humor does for us in the world, just even
Yeah.
in a pandemic. Like
Yeah.
it's okay to make jokes about things that are tragic. It is a way that we can process these things. It's a way
Yes.
that we cannot let them beat us.
Yeah.
And it's like I see this time and time again with everything. People get on comedians for making jokes about certain subjects. It's like, look, we need to be able to have any levity wherever we can find it
It's the
because
release.
that's right. I mean,
Yeah.
we are holding on so tight that I've been using this term recently in the last few days. We're like a powder keg. We're just
Mm,
ready to be set off. The littlest
mm,
thing is going to blow us up. And if we don't release some of that tension, man, oh man, does it come out in ways that we do not like it to come out in ways,
right.
and so that's where the drugs, that's the alcohol, it's the junk food, things that release that tension, but not in a healthy way.
Right.
And so we got to figure out how to release the tension in healthy ways, and that's the trick, right?
Going back to diet is that we all have different body types.
Mm-hmm.
And, there isn't a one size that fits all. I have become more of a vegetarian. I'm an 80-20, as I call it. I'm 80% pure vegetables,
Mm-hmm.
vegan,
Yep.
and then I'm 20% other because occasionally I'll have fish, occasionally I'll
Sure.
have chicken and
Sure.
cream cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's, my limit.
Yeah.
Um, and so I don't sweat it, and I think it's
Yeah.
also, change your diet to, where it's serving you,
That's right.
that it's really fueling your vehicle
That's right.
properly,
That's
at
right.
full maintenance, but don't feel guilty
No,
if you're going out for dinner and you're going to have something that you
less
normally
than healthy.
wouldn't eat,
That's right.
because our attitude around it, how many people when they go on diets, oh, I went off my diet, I had one spoonful of sugar, oh
Oh,
no,
they're
I
holding
went
on.
down everything.
Yeah, well, like I just said, they're holding on too tight. And
Yes.
and look, I'm a nutritionist.
Hmm.
Um, I have seen people with very good diets unhealthy because they are holding on too tight and
Yes.
they are rigid and they are
Yeah.
militant. So you know what
Right.
I do with my clients, my small step clients, but we work into food. My client that's just finishing up next week, she said, I said, eat something less than healthy tomorrow night on
Hmm.
purpose. And
Yeah.
because if I see that people are holding on too tight, I know what's coming, which is that they're going to burn out and they're going to get less than healthy. If they hold on, they're going to burn out through all their willpower is going to be gone.
Right.
And so how do you make, because it's again not about food, it's about being happy. And that
Yeah.
means, look, I've been 100% plant-based for 18 years. I know this research, that's just what I do. It's my asthma's gone because of that.
Hmm.
But I don't eat 100% healthy.
Hmm.
So on purpose, I've been talking a little bit about blue zones recently. These are the zones around the world that live the longest, have the most longevity. Okay. They're called blue zones. Not one blue zone, except for these Adventist people in Southern California, but not one blue zone other than they is 100% plant-based. Not one.
Hmm.
Not one doesn't drink alcohol. They
Hmm.
all drink alcohol. Things that are but living a good, happy, healthy life is a bigger picture than food. They have close
Yes.
families. They have less stress overall day to day. They're a little more in touch with nature. They have more positive outlooks, and they eat well and they move their bodies. But it's
Yeah.
one of the things. And so for some reason, and I know the reason, and marketing is very slick about
Oh,
around diet.
yes.
And I did a video on my YouTube channel called "Scare Yourself Thin," and
Hmm.
it was a satire, because if I can scare you to follow my diet and think that if a drop of oil is going to kill you, that you can't go to a party, you're going to keep coming to me because I'm going to alleviate some sort of stress for you. But that's not a healthy relationship. That's a unhealthy relationship. And
Yeah.
so if I can help people be fluid and make their own decisions around food instead of following, I don't give people diet plans anymore. I
Right.
did that. I did that for the first 2 months of being a nutritionist. Then I quit because I was like, this is not getting people healthy.
No.
And that was the inspiration for my first book, Approaching the Natural, which has, by the way, one chapter on food, and the rest is everything that's not food.
Right.
Because I started seeing people follow my plan, and guess what? Burning out and then
Mm.
undoing all the gains they made. I thought, this is weird, And so I had to crack that nut, figure out a better way to do this, And that was the beginning of my small steps approach back, that is 11, 12 years ago.
Attitude is huge.
Yeah,
It's just flashed to Oprah's 50th birthday, and she looked sensational because she'd been, working with a trainer, and
sure.
she'd been on this diet, and it was very rigid. And she was allowing herself for her birthday half a glass of champagne.
My goodness. I
And
mean,
it's like,
holding on too
what?
tight. No, hold on, hold
What?
on, hold on too tight.
Yeah.
Did you hear how the 111-year-old woman in North Carolina? She's German, but she just moved, like, when she was 99. She moved to be with her family in North Carolina. Anyways, 111. She just got her vaccine. They interviewed her and they said, "What's the secret to a long life?" You know what she said? Beer, wine, and good food.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and it's and
good
you got all these
attitude,
people.
good company. Yeah.
That's right. And you got these people holding on so tight to the
Yes.
so-called perfect diet.
Yeah.
And you interview people who are living longest, and they're like, yeah, no, not that kind of militancy. It's not going to
No.
deliver you. It's
Well, I
not
mean,
going to work.
look at Europeans. I mean, there's wine or beer with every meal.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah,
The whole thing here, what's the big word? Moderation.
yeah, that's right.
And
Yeah, and
North American word time to include everything in extreme.
yeah, yeah. No, for sure. And the thing about it is, on a very physical level, stress was what people don't know and don't understand necessarily. Stress weakens digestion,
Yes.
and stress weakens the immune system.
Yes.
So if you are hyper stressed about food and think about food all day,
Hmm.
guess what that stress is going to do for you? I don't care how good your diet is. And so again, as a coach, I'm like, we're not going to talk about food right away. Like, I always kick food down I always kick the can down the road. I go, we'll talk about that, but no, we're not doing that, because
Hmm.
for you right now, you think food is the end all be all, but it's not. So let's talk about everything else. Let's get some creative things that you do. Let's sing and dance. Let's take light
Hmm.
walks. Let's do some breathing. Let's do some journaling. And then later in 6 weeks, we'll start the conversation about food, because your brain is in a different place than it was before. And now you can handle
Yes.
changes and not go all in and burn yourself out. Okay, good. Now we can talk about food, right? So
Yeah.
it's attitude, it's managing your stress. And people go right to the food or right to the exercise, but it's about the stress first and foremost.
Yes. Um, I think that's over everything in life. We
Yes.
can, oh, the glass is half full. Well, it's actually full.
Mhm.
But it's half of water, half of air.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
That's a good point. Yeah, yeah.
You know, uh,
Yeah.
there was another wonderful show I did with Yasuyuki, the Emoto water experiment. Do you know that experiment?
I don't think so.
3 glasses of water in 3 different rooms, and one is ignored, one is
Oh,
given
I
more
read this.
negative, and
I read the book. I read the
right,
book, and then they analyzed the way the
yes,
structure of
yeah,
the water. Yes,
right, and
and they
so
put notes on the jars and things like
yep,
that. That's
yep,
right. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and one wart of the negativity went literally black, and then the water that was given the affirmations of love crystallized, and the
Yeah,
one that was ignored didn't do anything.
yeah,
We are 90% water.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Right. So,
yeah,
when, I'm a huge person on good vibrations,
yeah,
on frequency,
yeah,
we are all frequency. We're all an algorithm
yeah,
ourselves. And if we don't keep our waters in our brain and in our body calm,
yeah.
we're going to go in, to a monsoon. We're going to go into a tsunami,
That's
and
right.
it's very, very important. Is I think one of the huge things for anybody out there facing anything is the dialogue with self.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because if you, like you said, if you ignore the water,
Mm,
so if you ignore yourself, if you do not attend to yourself in a positive way, the ramifications are there. And
yes.
if you still don't deal with it, you're not going to like the way you feel, and so you're going to go again to the unhealthy behaviors. People want to stop binging and eating junk food. Well, one thing is to get your ducks in a row. then you won't
Hmm.
need the junk food so much.
Right.
It's like we want to say, Sid, tell me to not eat candy. I go, you already know not to eat candy. How about we change the mindset so that when you're around candy, you go, I'll have a piece, but I don't need to eat too much.
Yeah.
And then you're done.
Yes.
And it's like I've had that actually happen. People go, I had a piece of candy and I didn't overeat for the first time in 30 years.
Hmm.
And it wasn't because I told them not to eat candy or even to eat just one. I just helped them get to a place where when they're around the candy, they're in a less stressed place and they can make a decision about it. And that's called power. Right. And they
Yes.
don't need me in the picture. They don't need me
Right.
as a guru to stick with them forever and
Right.
ever. I'm
And but
accepting.
that's what a good coach is to help people have all the skills and the tools they need to maintain their own life. And they can come back to you if they have a wobbly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Exactly.
it's not to be dependent on you,
That's right. Yeah.
which,
Yeah.
a lot of the Western medicine is to make you dependent
That's right. That's exactly
rather
right.
than
Yeah.
independent. And
Oh yeah.
just on the point of chocolate, there is a chocolate called Macalata, and it is Peruvian cocoa beans, completely and utterly vegan, gluten-free,
Yeah.
everything. It's expensive, about $5 a bar. I did a wonderful show on the person who created it, but it's one of those things that one piece was
You're
so
done.
satisfying.
Totally.
So satisfying that a
Yeah.
whole bar,
You
maybe
don't, not
$5,
necessary.
but it will last you.
Oh yeah.
And it's dark chocolate too, which is also
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah.
I think it's okay for you to have your treats,
Heck
but
yes.
what
I
kind
mean,
of
good.
treats are you having?
And how often?
And how often?
That's it.
And the other thing too is when you we've got to remember the addictiveness of what we're being fed,
Yes.
literally.
Oh
In
yeah.
obviously in the cigarettes, it's all about addiction, getting you hooked. In the foods that we eat, the amount of sugar that's in everything,
Salt.
and the more you have of it, the more you crave the sugar because you go
Yeah.
for a crash and you crave more sugar.
That's right.
The less you eat things with the sugar in it, the less you crave the sugar.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
it's rechanging, your whole mindset, your whole body set, and that takes time
Yeah. It does.
and
Well, and
persistence.
yeah, there's a great book called The Pleasure Trap by a guy named Doug Lisle. I've been on the kind of the same circuit, so we've met a few times. But we're wired to take advantage, physically wired to take advantage of calories. This served us very well in the wild when food was scarce, and we would find a source and we would eat a lot of it. Well, food companies know exactly what that's about, so they make Kraft macaroni and cheese look very, very orange, and they make things very, very salty, and they make things very colorful, and in the fake world. And so it is. I want people to take it a little bit easier on ourselves when they say, I can't control myself. It's like you're eating French fries. Nobody can control, like it is designed to light your head
Yes.
on fire, right?
Yes.
So we can get mad at ourselves about that, or we could say, okay, this is a drug. It's not really food. So what would I do around drugs?
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, like when I teach nutrition classes, I go, don't think about that stuff as food. I call it technology. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't tell people not to eat it. I just go recognize it as technology. Even the animals we raise for food, they're technology. Chickens can't fly that we've bred, right? We make them into science experiments. We inject them with antibiotics and hormones. And then we do the same thing with plants where we take an olive, which is healthy, and take the oil out of it. And now it's junk food. Fine, just acknowledge it. I eat technology as well, but the question is, do you recognize it as such, and then can you make moves to say, okay,
Yeah.
I need to put this in my life just in this amount so that
Yeah.
it doesn't tank my overall energy. And it's a treat. If you
Mm.
do a treat every day, it becomes less of a treat. I asked a friend of mine once who smoked a pack a day of cigarettes. I said, do you enjoy cigarettes? He goes, no, because he just smokes all day.
Yeah.
It lost the treat of it. It's like
Yes.
he just
Yes.
now he has to do it, and that
Mm.
changes the whole game
Yeah.
when you have to do it.
I mean, our bodies, obviously different blood types and this and that and different type of guts and things. I suit vegetables more
Mhm,
than I do other, which I've come to recognize. I'm a 6 veggie a night person. I love
mhm,
my veggies. We need to know our bodies and which fuel really does fortify
sure.
it. But really, when it really comes down to it, pretty well everything is on our attitude and gratitude of life.
That's right.
And if we can get more gratitude in our attitude, right? More appreciation for the food we eat, for the
Mhm,
life that we've been given,
yeah.
for the choices that we can make.
Mhm.
We would see things from a totally different light. I feel that it's gone very, very away, the opulence, the entitlement.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I've got to have, I'm
Yeah,
entitled to it. And it's
yeah.
like, I don't like that word
Well,
entitlement.
how many people in the modern world say how many people in the modern world go, "I'm starving." I go,
Yes.
no, you're not starving. You
Yeah.
could go literally 5 days without eating and your body's going to be just fine. Like and it's just this expectation of like, if I have a little bit of discomfort, a little growl in my stomach, I need food and I need it now. And
Yeah.
that's not doing well for us. It's
Yeah.
not doing well for us. We're not getting happier and healthier,
Yeah.
and we're getting, yeah. So my first two books were like more health and happiness. The new book is really more about happiness rather. It's more happiness focused. There's almost nothing about food in the entire book, because I realized that if we set our sights on health first and foremost, we can get into things like diets. But if we set our sights on happiness first and
Yes.
foremost, then we will use how we eat as a tool to serve us in the happiness realm. We will use exercise as a tool to serve us in the happiness realm. And then we'll be less apt to get into things like militancy and rigidity, because they don't make us happy. And so I
Yeah.
realized there was a need for that. And we'll see what happens.
We're a spaceship,
Yeah.
right? And we can go where no one has gone before, right? And what food is a fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that what nature has done is given such delights in that food, in
Mm-hmm.
that fuel. So we're not just putting in one, regular octane. We're
Yeah.
putting in, I mean, again, if you eat with appreciation and you eat with just those wonderful flavors and foods exciting you, again, it's going to optimize you.
That's right.
Uh, but it is here to help this vessel
Mm-hmm.
explore.
That's right. Yeah. To
And
go to
we
new
are
areas.
exploratory creatures.
Yeah, we
We're
are.
wondrous creatures. We're creative creatures.
Yeah.
And if we could step more into that creativity, into that wonderment,
Yeah.
and look at food, I love food. I love
Me
going
too.
out to eat. I love food. I love
Yeah.
flavors.
Yeah.
Um, and I appreciate it when I eat it, and I
Me too.
appreciate what it's doing for my body. But it is there to fuel me to be able to go and do what I really want to do. And I think an awful lot of people are unhappy because, quote, quote, they haven't found their meaningful purpose.
Uh-huh.
They haven't discovered what their instrument is in life,
Yes.
how to play it, or which orchestra to bring it to.
Yes, that's right.
So that's where we need to get to first, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. I talk about passion a lot. People want to sit back and they want it to bang them over the head. It's like, no, you find out things about what you want to do. You find out where your passion is by engaging.
Yes.
And by moving and
Yes.
deciding. And
Yes.
I can't decide what to do.
Participating.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Participating in your life and in the world. And
Yes.
that's how things open up. It's not a waste
Yes.
of time to make a wrong decision if you make a
Gosh,
decision.
no.
No, then you learn, you go, oh, wrong decision. Let me move on this way. And I learned something about myself. I knew I don't want to do that thing. I'll do this thing
Yeah.
instead. And and I think food is a great tool.
Yeah.
There are foods that don't fuel the ship, and
Mm.
they just maybe paint the ship and make it look pretty.
Yes.
We don't do that. We don't need those all the time,
No.
And so we want the food that tastes good, but also gives us the longer. I always say that people who sit down to eat a Big Mac from McDonald's and a salad are both doing self-care. They're both taking care of themselves. One is more of in the moment. It's a
Mhm.
treat. You get the hit. One of them, the salad tastes good, but it doesn't taste as good as a Big Mac necessarily for most people. But it's good enough because it also gives you long-term health and energy past the time that you eat it. So it's how you balance those two kinds of models of self-care.
Yeah.
Are doing the quick in the moment self-care most of the time? Well, then you're doing drugs and alcohol or the drug of junk food, or you're doing more self-care acts that are long lasting and long view kinds of things. And you balance those things out.
Um, we are very, very addictive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
nature's
We like happy.
extremely, yeah. And it's, whatever is going to make us happy, whatever
Mhm.
pill, whatever food, whatever
Sure.
environment. And we're going to force ourselves to be happy. And if I need this crutch to do it,
Yep.
instead of, happiness and life is an inside out job.
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter what is going on exterior, it's the interior.
That's right.
And when you can find that happiness within yourself, and you have that core strength, that core love, that
Yeah.
core directing you, along with the divine. I will say that we get that gut instinct. Well,
Hmm.
I don't know, my gut's just telling me. I call that the soul intuition,
Hmm.
and it resonates with the heart and truth. It
Hmm.
goes to the spirit into action, and the mind will know what it needs to know when we need to know it.
Hmm.
One of the things we don't do as human beings is allow wisdom to come to us. We have stacks of knowledge,
Yeah.
but we don't always know how to use that
That's right.
knowledge
That's right.
because we're not wise enough to be still, to
Yeah.
allow the other intellects in our body to speak to us.
That's right. It's too noisy. We have too much noise.
Too much noise.
I just reread the book Jitterbug Perfume by a guy named Tom Robbins. Have you ever heard that book? And he talks about in that book, it's a great novel. It's a really fun novel, and there's a lot of stuff going on. But he says at one point, I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have it in front of me, but he said, you have to prepare your mind for wisdom.
Hmm.
And I thought that's the ticket, right? You got to
Yes.
get ready for wisdom.
Yes.
You got to get ready. And that's why I'm such a passionate advocate for small steps, because I am in a place where I want people to have moment, because they can say, okay, that's all fine, well and good, Sarah and Sid, but how do I do this in the world? And I
Yeah.
go, they think they've got to shut everything off for
Right.
8 hours a day, and you absolutely don't. You can find moments of silence and moments of solitude and get that same effect. That's what you can get done. And you can absolutely make great changes in literal minutes a day, and see how that goes on. But it's a tough challenge, because people want it so bad that they think they're going to have to undo and change everything all at once, and that's usually the opposite of what they need to do.
Yes. We talk about eliminating beliefs that don't serve us, eliminating the past. The past is, it's your tutorial,
Hmm.
right? And you can look at your past and go, oh my God, that was a bad lesson.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and then you can look at another one and go, that was a rough lesson, but
Yeah.
my God, did I learn a lot,
Glad I did. Yeah.
right? And it's, what have you learned from it? Because that's what you're applying to your
That's right.
next steps.
That's right. Yeah. How many people said, like, in the moment, how many times have you, and this happened to me 1,000 times, where something so-called bad happens in my life, and then years later I go, oh, I'm so happy that happened,
Yes.
because that happened, this other thing happened, and then that other
Yeah.
thing. But in the moment, you think
Yeah.
the world's falling apart. This is the worst. Yeah. This is the worst thing in the world. I got fired from my job. 5 years later, like, thank God I got fired from my job, because
Yes.
now I was able to find another job, and I ended up finding a job that I even liked better, whatever.
Right.
Just, we don't know. And if we can if we can maintain a strong through line of us, our real, true, authentic selves throughout that, then whatever happens in the so-called external world, we can sort of understand and maybe have a little more perspective and say, look, this feels not so good in the moment, but let me see how this plays out. And then that's kind of a cool way to live. You kind of go like, well, I wonder what this is going to look like 2 years from now. What's
Exactly.
this decision? What's this thing going to look like 2 years from now? It's kind of a cool thing.
Being wonderment, it's I'm constantly given sayings, and the universe gave me one 3 years ago of, we're going to come and shake you up to wake you up,
Uh-huh.
for you to step up and change it up and grow up. And the grow up was a double entendre,
Yeah.
as human
Yeah. Yeah.
beings, stop your tantrums, but also
Yep.
grow up to a higher frequency.
Sure. Sure.
And, for I'm not dismissing at all the amount of lives that we've lost, the amount of families that have been shattered
I
because of
know.
it. But for those that are surviving through this, it actually has become a gift. It has
Yes.
become a gift of reviewing,
Yeah.
of renewing. And so many people have pivoted into another direction
That's right.
and saying, this was the perfect pause for me
That's right.
to really look at, am I happy at doing what I'm doing? I can't do it right now because of COVID. So
Yes.
maybe this is the opportunity for me to go and look at what I really do want to do
Yeah.
and start setting things in motion. And
That's right.
so we are always going to get those little gifts in our lives that look like disasters.
Hmm.
There's a wonderful Celtic room called Haglas, and it's disruption. Whenever I used to get it, I go, no. And I
Yeah. Yeah.
realize you have to have chaos and disruption
Yeah.
before you can have calm and order,
That's right.
right? And it's okay. It's a clearing out
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
order to set the platform for a new.
That's right. If you try to shut down and avoid all the chaos,
Mm.
then you're a shut down person. And
Yes.
so what it means is you will be shut down to the good stuff too. And,
Yes.
and that's a tough pill to swallow. We've got
Yeah.
to, if we're going to be extremely happy in our lives, we have to deal with the fact that there's going to be extreme sadness too. And
Yes.
that it's okay. Have you ever heard, I've heard multiple times stories of people who have had cancer and gotten through it, and they're like, this is the best thing that ever happened to me.
Numerous
It,
people I've interviewed on
yeah.
that,
Oh
the
yeah. Yeah.
gift
Yeah.
of cancer.
Yeah, yeah, literally.
Yeah.
It's like the
Yeah.
weirdest thing. Like, I'm so glad I
Yeah.
had that heart attack. Why?
Yes.
Because it was a kick in my butt.
Yes.
Because
I
it got
call
me
that
to,
the cosmic 2x4.
yeah, yeah. It's exactly
Yeah.
right. It's like
Yeah.
it gave me this moment,
Yeah.
and it seems so crazy. You're happy you had cancer, and they're like, I wouldn't wish it on anybody,
Right.
but I'm really happy I had it. You're like, oh my gosh. I mean, just think about that for a second. How
Yes.
profound that is. That somebody is happy that they got deathly ill, and that they got through it. They get to all of a sudden make those decisions. And as we started our conversation, it's like, how can we help people not get to that point? To,
Right.
to grasp that and hold on to that idea without letting it get so bad.
Yeah.
You know,
And we all get, the tap on the shoulder from the universe, no, you're going in the wrong direction.
mhm.
Maybe you should change the direction
Sure,
here.
sure.
Hello,
Yeah, yeah,
and then it's like whack, are you
yeah,
kidding
yep.
me now? And we want to, before we get to the wackaroo. But what I have found is that whatever wackaroo we do get, it's always that gift, um, because getting through the process is the key.
Hmm.
finding our strength, finding our courage,
Yes.
realizing we're so much more able,
Yes.
right? What's
Yes.
really important,
Yes.
and getting through to the other side, and then realize, gosh, I have all these abilities and these
Yeah.
gifts
Didn't know I
now.
had them. Yeah.
I never knew I had them.
Yeah.
Now, what am I meant to do with them? Well, we as human beings are meant to be in service of
Uh-huh.
each other. So now you have a service of a skill and a tool because you went through the process
Uh-huh.
that other people can relate to
Uh-huh.
because they're going through it and you can really help them,
That's right.
right?
How
And
great.
so this is the premises of all of my podcasts, really, of people that have taken that redirect because they were
Uh-huh.
willing to go through the process. And that's life.
Uh-huh.
Be willing to go through the process of
Yes.
life.
Yes.
It is not paint by numbers.
Yeah.
It is not living up to society's expectation of popularity or rich and famous, or you're only valid if you're this or that,
Yeah. Sure.
right?
Sure.
It is knowing your inner self, the truth, the true abundance and beauty of who you are and what you're here to do and whom you're here to serve.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, it's exactly right. We have gotten swept up into this idea that we're popular because we have Facebook followers and not
Right.
because we're living our lives on our terms. And it's a sad thing. It's not making people, tend to. I quoted in my new book a study that was written about in the Atlantic, but one of the leading causes of death of 10 to 19-year-old kids in the United States is suicide.
Mm,
And a lot of that is attributed to social media, to actual social isolation. One of the truths in
yes.
my new book is called social media ain't social.
Mm-mm.
And, so kids are more isolated. Not about kids, but it's us. We're
Yep.
isolated from physical interaction, and now with the pandemic. But look, you and I get to look at each other, and we're miles and miles away. It's pretty
Right.
cool.
Yes.
But social media has become this filter between us and a human connection. So we're
Mhm.
isolated, and we think we're being social because we have 15 million followers on YouTube, and it's not adding up. It's not adding up for us. It's
Yeah,
not
I mean,
working.
in the case in point, let's look at the Cardassians. You know,
Yeah. Oh, I know.
you've got the Cardassians divorcing. They're worth 2 billion.
Uh-huh.
They have trillions of followers.
Yeah.
How happy has that made them?
I know. I know. I know. Yeah. I
You
don't
know,
know.
and it's like,
Yeah.
again, going back to interaction, there's nothing wrong with social media if you use it properly.
That's right.
And you use it to have a conversation with someone. Somebody
Sure.
posts something, you make a comment, and from
Uh-huh.
that comment comes a conversation.
Uh-huh.
It's interaction, right? If we cannot physically meet and have that interaction, we can do it this way. Everything is vibrational,
Yeah.
everything is frequency.
Uh-huh.
You can still have great connections, but it all comes to connection.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Yeah. How do you use it? Yeah. I mean,
How do you use it?
yeah, I went to the extreme in 2018 just because of the work I do, and I quit everything.
Hmm.
And I did that because I wanted to see what it was like. I wanted to see what the hold was on me. And it was tough. It was like, talk about addiction. Those
Mm.
things are modeled on the way that they
Yes.
drip out likes. It's a
Yeah.
very, very overt, addictive, people, the dopamine hit of seeing how many likes you've gotten. They know how to get that done. I wanted to see what it was like to live without it. And I still to this day say my career took a hit, but my happiness got a boost.
Yeah.
And it was a really interesting process for me to literally delete. I didn't just stop using it. I deleted my accounts, and it was like I was shaking. It was like a hard
Mm.
thing. It was like a it was a you could I could just know that it was that addictive when I was like trembling
Yeah.
when I hit the return button to delete my Facebook account. It was very weird. I thought, wow, this is kind of interesting. So yeah, I don't advise people to quit social media necessarily, but I think what you said was right on the money, which is how do you use it? What part
Mm.
I call, what I do? I call it mental nutrition, what we feed our mind.
Yes.
So
Yes.
just like in the physical nutrition food realm, there is junk food, mental food, and healthy mental food.
Yes.
So I would put social media in the less than healthy,
Hmm.
especially the way that you use it. How much of it are you feeding yourself? Like how much junk food are you eating day to day? I have clients who are on social media 4 or 5 hours a day. They want to talk about diet, but the stress of being on social media and arguing with people all day is making their digestion crazy.
Yes.
And I can't fix that.
No.
With diet, I
No.
can help it a little bit, but it's not going to turn it around unless you actually turn around the source problem, which is that you are in vitriol
Right.
all day arguing with people on social media. But that's very different than using social media to stay in touch with a friend who lives miles away. I think that's amazing.
A lot of my wonderful listeners,
That's
you
right.
know,
Exactly. Like it's
and
it's incredible.
their support is wonderful. And I put out a show, and they'll take it and they'll share it and they'll
Exactly.
converse about it, and
Exactly.
that is
That's the best part
interaction.
about, yeah, and that's like a
Yeah.
human to human great thing.
Yeah.
But so many people are just
Yeah.
in conspiracy theory,
Yeah.
yelling,
Oh,
screaming kind of world. And
yes.
look at Twitter. I mean,
Yeah.
The last 4 years in the United States has been
Ugh.
dominated by Twitter. News organizations weren't even reporting on things; they were reporting on tweets. And I
Yes,
thought,
I
this
know.
is a very weird world that we're living in. They're
I know.
reporting on tweet. This person tweeted this today. It's like, oh my gosh, like, what is happening here?
Yeah, I mean, what does that also say about us as human beings that we will believe that over, over a scientist or over
Yeah.
somebody
Oh,
who's
I
a
know.
professional and
I
bringing us
know.
the facts? And
I know.
it's, it's like, there was, I'm a Doctor Who fan, and there was a great show one time where an alien came in and took someone's body and mimicked. So first it would be behind the person speaking, and then it would match the person speaking, then be ahead of them, and
Okay.
it could
Okay.
jump from body to body. And
Wow.
everybody else left in that kind of space train is like, kill them, kill them, kill
Yeah.
them,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and the hysteria is out there.
Yes.
And we look at that, and I thought it was brilliantly acted
Uh-huh.
by David Tennant and a couple of others. But it is also a real clear example of how ordinary human beings who care about each other, who care
Yes.
about the world,
Yes.
could buy into the hysteria so
Uh-huh.
quickly.
Right away.
And that's what I call that sugar high.
Uh-huh.
And this is what the news has, and the social media for the last 4 or 5 years has
So
been
good at doing.
out. And you've got highly intelligent people
Oh yeah.
buying into Quanon and
Yeah.
everything else. And it's like, please take a breath, switch off from the
Yes.
social media,
Yes.
go back to your center core.
Yeah.
Is it real?
Yeah, well, people, and they've interviewed people who've gotten so-called gotten out of these things, and it
Right.
is like getting out of a cult. I mean, they go,
Yes.
whoa, and they kind of wake up, and you realize
Yeah.
that they were sort of shut down they were just kind of in it, that cult personality kind of thing, and it was like they were so deep in it, and when they get released, it is a release.
Yeah.
Like they feel released. They go, oh my God, I got out.
Yeah.
And so it is that level.
Yeah. Trevor Noah had on a woman last year. I think Sarah Jane says something, because Sarah says um, she's a teacher. And she decided that she wanted to actually put out facts, and she's just started doing it on Instagram, and now it's on Facebook. And it's she will look at all the facts coming from the sources
Mhm.
that are trained to
Sure.
look at the facts, and then she would put that out there, and people would argue with her, and then she would come back with, well, where's your base fact?
That's right.
This
Yeah.
is
What
the
do you
base
got?
fact. And then people go, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
okay. And it's so, it's not the whole Quanon thing of, what was it, Oprah Winfrey, Hillary Clinton, and Tom Hanks sucking the blood out of newborn
Babies.
babies,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
No. No.
it's like, please,
Yeah. Yeah.
folks,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
if it sounds so stupid, it is stupid.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And yeah, no, it's a weird thing, because on one side you have sort of rationality,
Mm,
fact based, and the other side you have gut feeling.
yeah.
Not in the good way, but in
No,
the
no,
fear,
no.
in the
Hysteria, I actually think
in the
it's a
fear
head
based.
thing. Yeah,
It's a
it's a
it's a
head thing.
lizard it's lizard brain. It's
Yes.
a survival,
Yeah.
that kind of survival level
Yeah.
stuff.
Get him
And
before he gets me.
that's right. And
Yeah.
it's very
Yeah.
hard to have a conversation when
Yeah.
the person's like, well, I've read all these science,
Yeah.
I've listened to the scientists, and I've talked about it, and the other person goes, well, I got nothing except for fear, and so I'm going to tell you that
Right.
they're eating babies.
Yes.
It's like, how do you have that conversation? It's like,
Yes.
whoa.
Right.
So that's a lot of the divisiveness in the states right now.
And
How do we
that
do it?
state of beingness is so detrimental to not only their psyche but their health,
Oh yeah, no
and
doubt.
and of course their relationships and everything they do in life, because they're living constantly in that hurricane of fear and
That's right.
hysteria.
That's right.
And you cannot sustain that for any
No,
length of time without something breaking down.
that's right. Yeah, our stress mechanism and stress response is brilliant when used sparingly.
Right.
But when we are in a heightened state of stress, we will see the physical breakdown of our bodies and minds. There's just no getting around it. We have not adapted to the stress
No.
of the modern world. And so if we don't take actual action in our lives to maintain our stress most of the time, allowing for spikes when they happen, we lose. And we're seeing it. And we're seeing it in the health of our species, and we're seeing it in the way that we
Yeah.
interact. And that's the side. But there's a solution. The good news is there's things that we can do about it. It's super cool that way. We
Yeah.
have creative minds that we can apply, and we have consciousness that we can take action based on, and really change the game for ourselves and our families and our friends and the world.
It's like the algorithm, right? What we feed will grow.
Yeah,
So
that's
if you
right.
feed things that are more rational, more logical, more manageable,
Hmm.
less stressful,
Yeah.
then happiness will grow.
Well, that's right.
Health will come out of that
Yeah, pretty
happiness.
pretty easy equation. That's
Right.
right. Yeah,
And it's, we love to overcomplicate things, but really when it comes down to it, simplicity works.
that's right.
Let us look at our children. Let's look at our puppy dogs.
Hmm.
They're
See what
living
they
in the
do.
moment. They're living in joy,
Yeah.
right? Why can't we do the same. What is it
Yeah.
that I'm an adult now? I can't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, exactly. You
No,
can't be a
you
kid.
know,
Of course you can
no.
be a kid. Yeah,
Go
yeah, yeah.
get silly buggers, please.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Go and do something silly, because obviously not hurting anyone else, but it's um I'm a true colors coach, so the four key strength personality traits,
Hmm.
and each personality trait looks at something
Hmm.
from a different perspective.
Got it.
And I think another thing that we need to do is, from your perspective it's right, from
Hmm.
that perspective it's right. Now how
Hmm.
about we take all four perspectives, put them on the table, and look at what do we all agree on?
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. What's
Right?
the
What do
common thread?
we, the common thread,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
now you can start from that common thread,
That's right.
having a conversation instead of an argument
That's right. Right away, right out of the
right
chute.
away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like we all love our kids. We all want to be happy. We all love our families. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on in the States
Right.
or whatever else craziness. Let's start with the common thread that we're trying to eke out a good life here, and start with that, and see where it grows from there. So good
I
stuff.
mean, life could be so simple between, as we talked about management, you know, uh, managing our stress,
Hmm.
managing our lives, managing the chaos around us.
Hmm.
And I live in chaos all the time. It's part of my wind, that
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
that I live in.
Sure.
It creates my order. And so you have to know, some people are just so very orderly, everything must be in its place.
Hmm.
And chaos is a detriment to them.
Yes, yes,
And others, the chaos is the creativity.
yes.
And we need to respect who we are
Hmm.
and what our process is. But
Hmm.
that again is that inside job. And we aren't going to find that if we're living the exterior life, or
That's
if
right.
we're substituting our happiness with junk food, with binge watching, with being online or on the phone all the time.
Yeah,
Moderation
yeah,
and exploration.
yeah. What level works for you?
Yes,
What level works for you? And we may think that we're binge eaters, let's say, but we may not actually be. And it takes some thought and solitude to get to the point where I say, you know what, that actually isn't who I am. And
right.
I got to bring this, getting to know yourself on that level, and stop defining yourself by your so-called bad habits of your past,
Yeah.
and just saying, well, who actually am I, regardless of how I've been behaving? Who am I really? And I do this with clients. I don't help people change into new people. I help them live life on their terms, that they just
Yes,
got to find out what those terms are.
that's right.
Yeah, if you talk
Be
about
exploratory.
yeah, it's exploratory. Find that
Yes,
out,
yes,
discover what that is. And it's very cool to see people transform in that way. They get to really understand who they are finally for the first time in 50 years sometimes. And
right.
then they get to start behaving that way a little bit more each day.
Hmm.
And it's a very cool thing to watch.
And it becomes their pattern, which is a healthier pattern.
That's right.
Right. And that
Yeah.
healthier pattern, rather like the year of the ox,
Yeah.
it's busy plowing its field,
Just
it's
it does its
solid,
job.
there's no bells and whistles to
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it's
No,
not
nothing
sexy
fancy.
as the tiger,
Nothing fancy. Yep.
but it's solid. And
Yeah.
there must be some part of us. And as I said, I'm very much a cosmic wind person,
Uh-huh.
and grounding is something that's always been rather challenging for me. But we
Uh-huh.
have got to make sure that our roots are strong, that our tree trunk is really good and sturdy, but
Sure.
our branches are able to
Can
move.
flexible. That's right.
Yeah.
Flexible. Yeah.
And that,
There's that
but we,
core.
we do need that rooting.
Uh-huh.
And very often, when we are eating wrong, or our stress is there, is because we don't have that grounding, we don't have that
That's right.
rooting,
That's the
and
hard
we
work of it.
don't feel secure in ourselves.
That's right. Yeah. And then we try to control the wind that's blowing
Yes.
our leaves, but we don't need to control the wind that's blowing our
No.
leaves. We need to establish the strong roots, and
Right.
that's the hard work of it.
Yeah.
That is
And,
the
and
hard
we
work
can
of it.
flap away in that wind without any worry,
Yeah,
right? Because
exactly. And
the
we can
roots are
enjoy it,
strong.
and
Exactly.
we can find joy in it, where we
Yes.
never would have seen joy
No,
before.
no, we would
And
just,
yeah,
it's
and
blowing
that's
out of control. No, no, no.
yeah, yeah. No, no.
Don't worry. Your roots are strong.
Yes,
Your
you're
tree
fine.
trunk's solid.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
you can flap away.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
exactly right. Right on the
yeah.
money. So
So
cool.
attitude is a huge thing, and as you
Yeah.
said in your books, it's less about the diet.
Hmm.
It's the emotional nutrition,
That's right.
mindset
Mental nutrition.
nutrition.
Yeah.
There's the spiritual and the psychological
Yeah.
nutrition. And before you do anything, I did a whole series on climate change, but it was around the mindset of climate change
Uh-huh.
before we actually do climate
That's
change.
you're right on the money. Yeah.
Because if you can't change the mindset, you're not going to make any other changes out
No,
there,
no, you
right?
won't. Yeah.
We know what's wrong out there, but very often we don't know how to put it right. We're so busy being inundated by what's wrong out there, we don't realize we have the empowerment within us to put it right. And
Yes.
it starts with us,
Yes.
within us,
Yes.
for us,
Yes.
because then we bring what's right out into the world.
That's right. Yeah. I call it holistic self-interest in my first
Mm,
book. Holistic self-interest. It's not greed. It's
no,
it's taking care of yourself in a way that is you understand that you're part of a whole. You're part of a family. You're part of a community. You're part of a society. You're part of a world. And treat yourself. You can't put yourself as a parent. You can't put yourself on the back burner, like we said.
no,
But as a human being, you can't either. If you want change in the environment, change your own habits
yes.
and see how that influences people, how you're living your life, not what you say, not
Mm.
how you get in someone's face, but how do you live? And they go, oh, that's interesting how you're living. You're looking good and you're feeling, you take care of yourself in a very cool way. What is that? What are you doing? And how do you take care of yourself? Make it start with you, just as you said. It's totally right on the money.
We are the seeds that we water.
Hmm.
What kind of growth do you want to see there?
Yeah.
And, don't look to your past and go, oh my God, you should have seen the weeds that grew there.
Yeah.
It was, what mindset were you in at that time
That's right.
that grew that? Are you
Yeah.
in that? I'm certainly nowhere the same person I was 10 years ago
I know.
or 20 years ago. And
Right.
that's the thing about until the day I exit this for body,
Yeah.
it is about growth. It
Yeah.
is about exploration and
Yeah.
constantly rising up to that higher vibration, which we
Yeah.
can do. I love the fact that your whole nutrition plan is less about food, because you know what to eat when your mind has finally got there, right?
I have clients change their diets in a good way before I've even talked about nutrition.
Right.
I mean, I can make new tweaks as a nutritionist, but most people have a general idea of how to
Yes.
eat well. They really, really do.
Yeah.
And they want to make it about the diet plan, but it's really about that. I've had people change their diets. They walk in the room and they go, I didn't feel like snacking
Yeah.
because they're writing their novel again for the first time in 5 years.
Right.
And they got other things to think about. And they love
Yes.
that. And food, it's not about food, it's how you relate to food.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm a nutritionist. And I'm like, listen, eat a little less than healthy this weekend because you're holding
Yeah.
on too tight.
Yes.
You're holding on too tight and you're going to burn out like you've done 15 times before you came to
Right.
me. So let's not do this thing again.
Yeah.
Because
The word extreme.
yeah. Because you don't
No.
want to live that way.
No.
You do not want to live that way.
No.
And like I said, I'm 100% plant-based, 18 years, but I
Mhm.
definitely do not eat 100% healthy.
Right.
French fries are plant-based and Scotch whiskey is plant-based and all sorts of, I'm a big Scotch guy, right?
I am a huge Scotch
Okay.
person.
Oh, then I knew where there was something. So I've had, my old podcast was called the Approaching the Natural podcast. I did 222 episodes. It's a health-based, health and happiness. But I drink Scotch when I would do the podcast and talk about it.
Mhm.
And I got criticized. Well, you're a nutritionist. Like, I don't think that's a good message. I said, well, I disagree with you. I think that's the best message because
Yes.
I don't drink Scotch all the time. It's a
Right.
treat. And if you are holding on
Yes.
so tight that you can't break your diet, you're not doing something to serve you. Sorry,
Right.
but it's true. And that's just what,
Yes. And coffee in the
I'm,
mornings.
hey, Sarah, I roast my own beans.
Oh, good girl.
Sorry,
Good
but
guy.
I roast my own beans, and
Right.
I love coffee. But do I drink it all day? No.
No, I
I
drink
found a
it.
level. I found a level that I can fit for me. I drink it in the morning so that I can
Yes.
sleep better and I call it a day. But
Yeah.
I love it.
I have 2 of these in the morning.
That's
The rest of the time is water. So
yeah.
either
That's me too.
plain water or lemon water.
That's
It's
exactly what I do.
water.
Yeah, and so I love it. I don't want to not. I have people I can't drink coffee. It's like okay,
Right.
okay.
Yeah. Again,
Well,
extreme.
yeah,
The moment you go to I can't, the body
yeah,
goes into why not? Why
yeah,
not?
yeah. If you
You're
go,
denying me.
yeah, if you go to I don't want to, different
Right.
ballgame.
Yes.
Different ballgame. If you
Yeah.
don't want to, good. If you
Yeah.
think you can't, uh-oh.
I
Right?
mean, my daughter and her husband are 100% vegan and they're diehards, right?
Mhm.
And good for them.
Yeah,
They've
totally.
built the best
If it's a
environmental
choice.
house they can. Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm obviously from a different generation,
sure.
and but I look at it this way. I am the 80-20. I'm not going to beat myself up for when I go 20%.
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
not going to
exactly.
do that because
Again,
I don't want the stress, or now and again I know I need maybe the protein or something, or I'm out for dinner and it's hard to
uh-huh.
find a good vegan meal. Um, Whatever the point is I'm not going to apologize for it,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because I know that I'm that 80%
Uh-huh.
most of the time, and if I'm off on the 20%, that's okay. Enjoy
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
We can literally change the texture of the food by the energy we give it.
You're darn right. Yeah, and moderation isn't a fixed percentage. It's what
Right.
you find fits into your life.
Yes.
And so it's like, is it 80-20? Is it 90-10? Is it depending
Yeah.
on what happens in your life where you
Yeah.
start feeling less sick or more sick rather? So you go, okay, let me adjust the percentage a little bit because I'm not feeling well. It's being fluid. It's being
Yeah.
adaptable. Right. And so that's what being a successful human being is. It's not a robot. It's a person who's adaptable and versatile, and like you said, has the strong roots and can make adjustments as needed. And that's the task.
We can all do it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. It's easy for you. Yeah, it's easy
No,
for
no.
all of us when we know how.
Yeah, and also I would say it's hard sometimes too, and that's
Yes,
okay. Like, what? Don't be afraid of hard work. It's
right.
like I said, a marriage isn't easy.
No,
So
you
people
have
go,
to
it's easy
manage
for you. It's
it.
like, yes, you have to pay attention. I have a great
Yes,
marriage. I have a
yes,
great marriage, but we work our butts off. I've been married
right.
26 years. We work our butt off on each other. We
Yes,
separately work on ourselves so that what we
yes.
bring to the marriage is better. As a parent, it's very hard work. Do a lot of work on myself so that I can be the father that I believe I am in deep down. That takes work and attention. I can't phone that in because I have a
I'm
bad. Yeah,
extremely pleased that you have
yeah,
mentioned that because I was one of those, and especially from that generation, got married and then immersed my entire self into the marriage
sure.
and became the sacrifice, became the servitude,
Yeah,
and at the expense of myself.
that's right.
I have a wonderful picture I put out for people where it's man and woman facing each other, but with one face. There is the circle of you,
Hmm.
there's the circle of your partner,
Uh-huh.
and then there's the circle that you create together.
That's right.
And that circle that you create together is only as strong as your individual circles.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, you have to do the work on yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, and I love when my wife takes time for herself. I love that she exercises for herself. I do
Mhm.
that for me. She eats well for herself. I do it for me, and we allow that to bring. We know that affects the way that we bring our own stress management. Definitely affects our marriage,
Right.
and me as a parent and her as a mom. And so it is the again we come back to 1,000 times. It's attention to detail. It's managing your life. If you don't
Yeah.
manage your life, you can fake it for a while, but it's going to come bite you at some point.
Please do not live by society's expectation of what you
Yeah.
should be
Yeah.
or somebody else's
Some
expectation.
picture. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, your parents or your school or other people around you. The whole thing about life is that wonderful self-discovery of who you are, what you're here to do, what is your greatest gift,
Uh-huh.
how can you serve others with it?
Yeah.
And that is a beautiful journey to have.
Yeah.
And it's how do you ride that roller coaster,
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
without the fear,
Yeah,
know?
exactly. That's the trick.
And get to enjoy it.
Yeah.
You get to enjoy the struggle times because it becomes a challenge
Mhm.
that you can get through,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Oh, I know. I know.
And then afterwards you go, oh, phew, that was a
Yeah.
rough one, but I
Yeah.
did it.
I
I
did it. I
did
got
it.
through it. I got through it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was tested and I got through it.
Yes.
Yeah. Super
Yeah.
cool.
And you feel kind of more worthy in your
I
life. So
know.
yeah.
I know. I
Right?
know.
So, it's not like a lot of the times, something that's happened to someone that's been traumatic will show its face again.
Mhm.
Triggers.
Mhm.
Triggers doesn't mean you're going back there. It
Yes.
just means whatever situation you're in right now has triggered that memory. Look at that memory and go, I am so
Uh
happy you're in the past.
yes. Yeah, thank
You've
goodness.
got
Stay
nothing to do
there.
with my
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
future.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly right. You stay right where you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I see you. Oh my God. I look at myself and what I've gone through in life and I go, wow, I survived that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh
I,
yeah.
I
Yeah, yeah.
became something better because
Stronger
of
and better.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And it's like, I am not that person anymore because I was willing to go through the process of self-discovery
That's right.
to become who I am today. And am I perfect? No. If you
No.
start looking at perfection, you're going to let yourself down.
Yeah.
Be beautifully imperfect.
Yeah,
That's what
well, because
makes
we're
it
humans.
unique. Yes.
The perfect human is imperfect because that's our design. So
Yes.
if you want to be a perfect human, accept the mistakes and the imperfections that are coming because they are.
Yes.
And so we can otherwise we're a robot, and that doesn't sound fun to me.
And even a robot is not going to have everything.
Yeah,
Right?
no, no.
It's,
The
it's a
robot
question
wasn't
of
have
what
it
we
doesn't.
put in it, what we
Yeah,
program in it.
they don't have they don't have emotion. They don't have
Right.
feeling. They don't have depth of experience. And we don't want to be that. We don't want to be so shut off that we look perfect to the outside, but
Right.
inside we're holding on so tight that we can't express anything.
Yeah.
It's a tough way to live.
Our
So
soul wisdom cannot speak through a closed heart.
yeah,
And whether our hearts have been hurt or not, we can't shut them down.
yeah,
When we live from a heart base, heart for ourselves, heart for our loved ones, heart
hmm
for life,
yes,
the love of life,
yeah,
always finding something to find joy in,
hmm
then we have got an open heart and that wisdom will always come through.
yeah,
It will always guide us to the knowledge we need to know. Um, so many people close that heart down because of they've been hurt
yes,
or the pain.
yeah.
Yeah, you have to push through that pain.
I
You
know.
have to open that heart again
Yeah,
because that's your connection to yourself and
everything,
everything around you.
everything. Yep, that's exactly right. Absolutely. Good
Wonderful.
stuff.
So this new book, when is this coming out?
The published date is April 13th on Rare Bird Books, and it's called, yeah, Six Truths. Live by these truths and be happy. Don't, and you won't. That's a kind of a,
Right.
it's supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
Anyways, a little jokey. I try to use humor again to just make things
Mm,
accessible and fun, and let's just kind of
yes.
simplify
Lighten up.
everything. Yeah, exactly. So the book is very like light in its writing. It's chunked up into sections. You can just grab and read a section here and there, and yeah. So it's funny and well, anyway, it's supposed to be funny. Whether people like my sense of humor, I have no idea. Again, I don't have control over that.
No, no, no. I mean, that's the thing is, do people partake of your dish or not?
Yeah, I
And
don't know. I don't
it's
know.
not going to be, one size fits all. You're going
Yeah,
to be speaking to the people who are ready to hear you.
yeah. Some people have reviewed my books. Oh, he's really funny, and other people go, I don't like his humor. I was like,
Right.
okay, like
Yep. Yep.
not my problem. Not my problem.
No, 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 no.
I'm happy with it. It's got the message I want it to be, and
Exactly.
enough people connect with it that I'm a happy guy. So
Right. And that's the same with podcasting, right? We
that's
put it
exactly right.
out there,
And
you know,
let's see where it happens.
and
Yeah,
see
exactly.
what happens.
Right.
And those that receive it, it means they relate to it. But
That's right.
if you try and relate to everyone,
Oh,
you're just not going to happen. You're never going to be authentic,
yeah. No, you
right?
don't. You
So
can't.
you've got to be true to who you are and
Yeah,
understand that there's always going to be somebody out there that relates to you,
that's right.
that hears you.
Because we're
If they
all
don't
humans.
hear you, they're just not on your channel.
That's exactly right.
That's all it
And
is.
nothing you can do about it. Exactly.
Nothing you can do about it. So
Yeah.
serve those that are ready to be served.
Cool.
How do people listen to your podcast? How do they find you for your services?
Okay.
And where
Well,
do they find your books?
cool. Yeah. So the books are everywhere. They're in stores and where they're published. So Amazon and Barnes and Noble and indie bookstores too. The three books. And then my podcast is What Sid Thinks. That's everywhere, iTunes and Stitcher and everywhere you would find your podcasts. SidGarza-Hillman.com is my main website. Through there, you can get to my YouTube channel and everything else, but you can search for me on YouTube. I've been on YouTube for a long time. And then I do an online program, which is a habit change program called smallsteppers.com. And I also do a private intensive with clients privately, which is called smallstepintensive.com. So there's 4 places you can truck around and check it out. And yeah, that's it.
Excellent. And, I mean, we're not here for somebody else to live our life.
That's right.
We're here to live this gift of life. And, especially in this last year where we have lost so many people to
Yeah,
this horrible virus, and so many lives have been shattered because of it. This is the time to step into gratitude,
that's right.
right? It is time
Notice
to
what you
step,
have.
notice what you have,
Yeah.
stop complaining, about, when people would say, I'm shut down, I can't, I said, you haven't got bombs dropping on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You haven't
No,
got
totally.
Nazis at the door. You're
Yeah.
not starving,
Yeah.
right? You've been asked to wear a mask, stay in,
Yeah.
wash your hands, and use your common sense.
Yeah. I made a joke
Yeah.
on my podcast, but I don't know if it offended anybody. I hope not. But I was like, this is the best time to have a pandemic. We have technology. We can connect.
Yes.
I can see my
Yes.
parents. It's not ideal. I'm not in the same room, but I get to see them and talk to them. Imagine if we didn't have this kind of ability to connect. We would be in a very, very worse place. It's horrible what it is, but man, you can take online courses, you can talk to
Yes.
friends and family, you can do lots of things that you couldn't do in 1918 when we had the last one.
Yeah, we can have a
And
baby shower.
that's right, exactly. So it's like I just worked on I work at a resort. I head up a wellness center at a resort called the Stanford Inn Resort in Mendocino. We had an elopement, just 2 people, so it was socially distanced with a mask. But I held up a phone for the bride. It was her phone on a Zoom so that her whole family could be at their elopement.
Yeah.
It's not ideal, of
No.
course not. But is it amazing? Yes, it's amazing. They got to see their daughter get married in a
Right.
time where people can't be in the same room. That's incredible, And
Yes.
so if we don't grasp onto those, we let the world take us down, and we can't let that happen.
And I think the reason why this is global and not just hitting one country or 2 countries is the fact that we do have this technology that has brought us all together,
Yes.
right? We're all
Yes.
in this together,
Yeah.
and some countries are doing better than others.
Yes.
But while we're busy pointing finger at government, saying government's not doing, 3 are
Mhm.
pointing back at us and going, what are we doing?
What are we doing? Exactly.
Because
Absolutely.
whatever happens out there, there's the reason why this show is called Your Health is Your Choice,
Yes.
right? Your
Yeah.
mental health, your physical health,
Your
your
choice.
spiritual health, everything is your choice because
Yes.
it's how you interact with self,
That's right.
how you participate in your own life.
Yes.
That is what you are bringing out into the world. So
Exactly
you
right.
want to see a better world, then you've got to live a better life.
Yes. That's right. That's right. Do the work.
Do the work,
Yeah.
right? And it's not hard when you get into the routine of it.
No, and that's the initial thing is weird, but then you
Yes,
do it more often, and even the work gets less work.
yes,
Yeah, but
exactly. And
yeah,
then a crisis comes up. Well, you know how to handle it.
been here before, seen it.
Been here
Yeah, yeah,
before, done it.
yeah.
Okay, now
Yeah,
what
got
about which ingredient will help with this
yeah, yeah,
situation?
yeah, 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 yeah,
And you're
yeah.
not overwhelmed.
Exactly.
Or you know how to take that deep breath
Yep. Yeah,
and go, okay, yeah, I
that's
can
right.
face this.
That's right.
Right? Because we
Super
can
cool.
face anything. We are extraordinary creatures,
We really are. Yeah,
but
when
we've
we take
sold
advantage
ourselves
of it.
so short. We
I know.
really
I know.
have.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely right.
This has
Cool
been
stuff.
wonderful having you on here.
What
Thank
a
you so
joy! What a
much.
joy! I wish we had tackled the Scotch thing early on because it would have
Yeah,
changed the whole nature of the
I
of the
would have had a
conversation.
glass here. A bit early.
I know exactly what I was going to say. Is it too early? Anyways,
Yeah.
no, it was really fun being on your show, and thanks for having me. I really
My
appreciate it.
pleasure. Good Scotsman, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like minds. Yeah,
Yes, yes. And that's the thing is whether it's scotch, whether it's wine, or whether it's beer, it's again moderation.
yeah,
Don't use it as the crutch.
yeah. Exactly. Not a crutch. It's a
You can
joy.
partake in anything as long as it doesn't become an addictive or a replacement
Yeah,
for
yeah.
an emotion.
That's right. Exactly.
So joy,
Good stuff.
fine. Go and
Good stuff.
celebrate. Have that joy. Cheers.
Heck yes. Heck yes.
Well, thank you so much. And again, the sites are, I'm just going to quickly go back over them again. Glasses on, glasses on. So from Amazon, they can buy both of the books, Approaching the Natural A Health Manifesto,
That's one book.
that's
Yep.
one book, and then
Yep.
Raising Healthy Parents, and then the new book, which is the
Six Truths.
The Six Truths to be
Yep.
happy or not, and of course your podcast that people can go to. They can find you on Apple or
Everywhere.
any iTunes.
Yep.
What Sid Thinks podcast. I've got the links right here,
Cool.
and your site, which is Sid Garza, and let's spell that SIDGARZA Hillman.com.
Hillman. That's right.
And then the other is
smallsteppers.com and then smallstepintensive.com.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So it's there. That's the whole point. Help is always there when
Yes.
you are ready, right? The teacher's ready when you are.
Yes, that's right.
Right.
Exactly
So
right.
be ready because your health is your choice.
That's right.
Right.
Well
So,
said.
and the healthier you are, mind, body, and soul, the more you can contribute to society and the better we see a society grow.
100%.
So you're the ingredient that's missing.
100%.
Thank you so much for being here,
All
Sid.
right, Sarah. It was a pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Until next time, folks, be well. Bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. You will hear many, many shows here on self-discoverymedia.com. We have new shows for you out every week. Just find them on our podcast or What's New. If you feel that you have something to share that makes a difference in the lives of others, or you too feel that you could be a host, please contact me at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com and we will be glad to speak with you. Have a wonderful day.